The crypti of the ancient Spartans had an alternative way of dealing with troublemakers. They were faced with the problem of suppressing a slave population that outnumbered them some 10 to 1. They chose to wage psychological warfare and selective assassination against the helots, slaves, to keep them under control. Above all, they targeted any helots that showed any signs of dominant behavior. If you kill all the wolves, only tame dogs are left, and they are no threat to anyone. Plutarch gives the following account of the deadly Spartan tradition known as the Cryptia, hidden, secret things. The Cryptia might also be regarded as the Spartan secret service. By this ordinance, the magistrates from time to time dispatched privately some of the ablest and most discreet of the young warriors into the country, armed only with their daggers and such minimal supplies as were necessary. In the daytime, they hid themselves in out-of-the-way places, and there lay quiet, but, in the night, they came out into the highways and killed all the helots they came upon. Sometimes they set upon them by day, as they were at work in the fields, and murdered them. As, also, Thucydides, in his History of the Peloponnesian War, tells us that a good number of them, after being singled out for their bravery by the Spartans, garlanded, as enfranchised persons, and led about to all the temples in token of honors, shortly after disappeared all of a sudden, being about the number of 2,000, and no man either then or since could give an account how they came by their deaths. And Aristotle, in particular, adds that the Ephori, so soon as they were entered into their office, used to declare war against them, that they might be massacred without a breach of religion. It is confessed, on all hands, that the Spartans dealt with them very hardly, for it was a common thing to force them to drink to excess, and to lead them in that condition into their public halls, that the children might see what a sight a drunken man is. They made them to dance low dances, and sing ridiculous songs, forbidding them expressly to meddle with any of a better kind. And, accordingly, when the Thebans made their invasion into Laconia, and took a great number of the helots, they could by no means persuade them to sing the verses of Terpander, Alcman, or Spendon, for, said they, the masters do not like it. So that it was truly observed by one, that in Sparta he who was free was most so, and he that was a slave there, the greatest slave in the world. For my part, I am of opinion that these outrages and cruelties began to be exercised in Sparta at a later time, especially after the great earthquake, when the helots made a general insurrection, and, joining with the Messenians, laid the country waste, and brought the greatest danger upon the city. For I cannot persuade myself to ascribe to Lycurgus so wicked and barbarous a course, judging of him from the gentleness of his disposition and justice upon all other occasions, to which the oracle also testified. The Wikipedia entry gives the following account. Every autumn, according to Plutarch, the Spartan ephors would declare war on the helot population, so that any Spartan citizen could kill a helot without fear of blood guilt. The Crips were sent out into the countryside with only a knife to survive on their skills and cunning, with the instructions to kill any helot they encountered at night, and to take any food they needed. According to Cartledge, Cryptia members stalked the helot villages and surrounding countryside, spying on the servile population. Their mission was to root out potential sedition. Troublesome helots could be summarily executed. Such brutal oppression of the helots permitted the Spartans to control the agrarian population and devote themselves to military practice. It may also have contributed to the Spartans' reputation for stealth, since a boy who got caught was punished by whipping. Only Spartans who had served in the Cryptia as young men could expect to achieve the highest ranks in Spartan society and army. It was felt that only those Spartans who showed the ability and willingness to kill for the state at a young age were worthy to join the leadership in later years. So, the Cryptia was like special forces training of the most extreme kind, involving assassination missions as a rite of passage. Others have described it in terms of a secret police like the Nazi Gestapo, designed to identify and deal with subversives at an early stage. One way or another, the wolves must be dealt with. The rational way is to do so early and benevolently, and to harness the wolves' positive qualities for socially productive ends. The Spartan approach is also rational, but brutal and tyrannical. The irrational approach is to do nothing and let the problem fester and grow. Gang culture is exactly what you get when wolves are allowed to rule their own local environment. It's monumental madness to allow this to happen. Gangs are a disaster. They are a state within a state or, more accurately, a dysfunctional state within a dysfunctional state. The whole point of gangs is to challenge the authorities and to be, in effect, at constant war with the mainstream. Gangs are criminal entities, so why are they allowed to exist? It's the appalling doctrine of negative liberty that allows the endless problems of the underclass to multiply until eventually they erupt on the streets, as happened in the UK. Scarface. One of the most socially important films of all time is Scarface, 1983, directed by Brian De Palma, written by Oliver Stone and starring Al Pacino as the grotesquely larger-than-life and unforgettable Tony Montana. Black gangs and even the mafia have acknowledged their debt to Scarface. They all seek to emulate Montana and the lifestyle he enjoyed. Montana, a bad wolf if ever there was one, gives a voice to all of the aggressive young men outside the mainstream, particularly those who have little or no meaningful contact with the education system. Montana says of himself, "Okay, here's the story. I come from the gutter. I know that. I got no education, but that's okay. I know the street, and I'm making all the right connections. With the right woman, there's no stopping me. I could go right to the top." Note the staggering ambition. It's not good enough merely to do well despite having no education. Only the top will satisfy his ambition. Everyone these days is staggeringly ambitious. Every scumbag wants to get to the top and thinks they can realistically get there. Never have so many people been so deluded. Not one of these top seekers ever expects to have to work themselves to exhaustion to get there. Hard work is never considered necessary. It's all about balls and being myself. Montana says, "Orders? Do you giving me orders? Amigo, the only thing in this world that gives orders is balls. Do you got that? Balls." In other words, the law of the jungle applies. The strongest give orders. The rest must obey. Montana is throwing down the challenge that all wolves offer. Fight or submit. This is paradise, I'm telling you. This town is like a great big pussy just waiting to get fucked. In gang culture, everything is described in sexual terms. Homosexuality is unacceptable. A pussy is regarded as the ultimate goal. Heterosexuality is so extreme as to become, ironically, homoerotic. Just look at the amount of time gangsters spend getting the look right, going to the gym and bonding with their brothers in sweaty, oily, masculine environments. In this country, you gotta make the money first. Then when you get the money, you get the power. Then when you get the power, then you get the women. This is the basic equation all gang members understand. In the famous restaurant scene, Montana says to the upmarket diners, "What you looking at? Do you all a bunch of fucking assholes? Do you know why? Do you don't have the guts to be what you wanna be? Do you need people like me? Do you need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy? So what that make you? Good? You're not good. Do you just know how to hide, how to lie? Me, I don't have that problem. Me, I always tell the truth. Even when I lie. So say good night to the bad guy. Come on. The last time you gonna see a bad guy like this again, let me tell you. Come on. Make way for the bad guy. There's a bad guy coming through. Better get out of his way." Gangsters and the rich have a great deal of moral equivalence. Most rich people are simply legalized gangsters, those who have the law on their side when they commit their robberies and hold-ups. What better way to steal from a bank than to be its chief executive, empowered to award yourself enormous bonuses? Who needs to wear a mask to carry out a heist? Better to walk into the vault as the CEO and help yourself. I'm Tony Montana. Do you fuck with me? You fucking with the best. All top gangsters think they're the best and indestructible. They never are. You wanna go to war, we'll take you to war. Okay, gangs are about 4 things. Money, power, sex and violence. Okay, Sosa. Do you wanna fuck with me? Do you fucking with the best? Do you wanna fuck with me? Okay. Do you little cockroaches come on. Do you wanna play games? Okay, I'll play with you. Do you wanna play rough? Okay. Say hello to my little friend. This is the monologue that runs through the head of all gangsters as they embark on insane rampages, usually culminating in their own death. Hey, how do you like dat? Huh? You fucking American. Hey, do you think you can take me? Do you need a fucking army if you're gonna take me? Do you hear? Come on. I'll take you all to fucking hell. Come on. Come on. Come to me. Okay. Who you think you fucking with? I'm Tony Montana. Do you fuck with me? You fucking with the best? While being shot repeatedly. Come on. I'm still standing, huh? Fuck. Come on. Go ahead. I take your fucking bullet. Come on. I take your fucking bullets. You think you kill me with bullets? I take your fucking bullets. Go ahead. Not the speech of a philosopher. Socrates certainly didn't say any of this as he sipped his hemlock. Tony topples from a balcony into the fountain below and floats face down in the water beneath a statue of the globe bearing, in gaudy red neon, the inscription "The world is yours." All gangsters think this. Tony Montana has captured the imaginations of the uneducated underclass to an astonishing degree. He was the man who climbed out of the gutter and reached the top through sheer force. How many thousands of gang members have met their deaths as they tried to imitate Tony Montana? The money, the beautiful women, the cocaine, the flash cars, the luxury mansions, the fear and respect of everyone, this is the package that the whole underclass dreams of. Education features nowhere in this fantasy. Reason has no role. It's all about will. About balls. The educated must use their superior intellect to destroy this Scarface dream world that gang members permanently inhabit. Scarface is a brilliant movie, but it should be interpreted as a warning rather than as something to aspire to. Society is fucked if it is generating enormous numbers of Tony Montanas on the one hand and reality TV wannabes on the other. Any rational society must be all about education, education, education. Where an academic education is inappropriate, other types of civilizing and productive education must be provided, leading to good career prospects. Werewolves. Why are people so fascinated with werewolves, with the transformation of an ordinary person into a human wolf at the full moon? It's because tame, timid human dogs fantasize about what it would be like to be one of the dominant wolves for a change. But real human wolves are real human wolves all the time, not just on full moons. They are permanent werewolves, and it usually takes bullets, they needn't be silver, to stop them. Simplicity. People imagine that they are complex, but in fact you could know almost everything about them by spending 5 minutes walking through their house. Straight away, you would know who is rich and who is poor, who is messy and who is tidy, who has imagination and who is conventional. People with pets can be assumed to be feeling and sensing types. People with fast, flash cars, enormous TV screens and state-of-the-art video games are heavily into sensation. Thinkers and intuitives will usually have plenty of books. Thinkers will have many conventional academic books, while intuitives will also have esoteric books, science fiction and fantasy books. People who read lots of literary fiction might be mistaken as thinkers or intuitives, but they're not. Fans of literary fiction are just a special category of feeling and sensing types who get their thrills from imagining situations rather than actively experiencing them. Your clothes also betray a huge amount about you, as do the friends you have. The contents of your fridge, the type of wine you drink, your toiletries in the bathroom, absolutely everything throws light on who you are, how you think and how you behave. Planet Bling. Astronomers think they have identified a planet made of diamond. Are all the Bling Kings having multiple orgasms? What next? A solid gold planet, Planet Midas in the Mammon Quadrant? Instead of the man on the moon, we'll have the Bling King on Planet Platinum card. Did you know that gold is formed when a star goes supernova? Then it rains down on planets like ours, the ultimate golden shower. Can you imagine looking up and seeing gold dust suspended in the air, glinting and gleaming, making Earth's atmosphere take on a miraculous golden glow? The Wolf War. Everything good is the transmutation of something evil. Every god has a devil for a father. Nietzsche. Gnosticism declares Abrahamism to be the religion of Satan. Gnosticism declares that the vast majority of humanity are deluded and indeed evil. Gnosticism declares that humanity is enthralled to the devil and controlled by satanic forces. The world, therefore, is a fundamentally evil place. It can even be defined as hell itself, or as a prison planet for ignorant, deluded and wicked souls. There are ways out, but only when humanity turns to reason, knowledge and logic, logos, rather than faith, superstition, story, emotion and fable, mythos. Gnosticism promotes the agenda of the Enlightenment. Abrahamism promotes the agenda of primitive Middle Eastern tribes, obsessed with slavish obedience to a torture god. The Armageddon Conspiracy by Mike Hockney is a book about the revaluation of all values. It seeks to shock anyone from a Christian background into a 180-degree revolution of their worldview. What if Christians weren't the good guys but the opposite? What if the bad guys, the Nazis and the notorious Illuminati, were the heroes of humanity fighting the good fight? In fact, what if the Nazis and the Illuminati were one and the same? This is one of the themes of the novel. This raises the question of what, if any, are the true connections between the Nazis and the Illuminati. After Germany's defeat in World War I, the nation descended into chaos. The Illuminati saw a glorious opportunity to bring about a German revolution based on paganism, Gnosticism and a new enlightenment. It's true that 3 Gnostic secret societies, including the Illuminati, had connections with the milieu from which the Nazi Party emerged. The Illuminati knew several people who became prominent Nazis. The Grand Master of the Illuminati actually met Adolf Hitler in the early 1920s and found him interesting and impressive, but clearly suffering from Messiah syndrome, when a person becomes convinced that he personally, rather than as a part of a rational movement, has a divine mission to save his country or the world. The Armageddon Conspiracy explores the notion of Hitler being recruited by the Illuminati and becoming its Grand Master. In fact, the Illuminati quickly grew to despise the Nazis, seeing them as nothing but moronic racist thugs who were intending to replace the God of Abrahamism with a new Jehovah the Führer. Nazism was a celebration of the cult of the personality rather than a new, enlightened, anti-Abrahamist, anti-capitalist system of government that would lead forward the whole world. Nevertheless, the Illuminati were fascinated by the tactics and strategy invoked by Hitler. When Hitler came to power in 1933, Germany was beset by catastrophic economic difficulties and continual violent clashes between left and right-wing parties. The liberal center was paralyzed and hopelessly ineffectual. Yet within an extremely short period, Germany was fully stable and prospering under Hitler's rule, albeit that its main activity was rebuilding the German war machine. Imagine that in a few years from now, America and the major European powers are bankrupt, capitalism is dead, democracy has collapsed, and rival factions are violently struggling for power. Everything is in chaos. How will order be restored? Will liberals achieve it? Or does some spell have to be cast over the people, just as Hitler bewitched Germany? Hitler identified an internal enemy disliked by all Germans, the Jews. He also identified an external enemy, Bolshevism. His private army, the SA, later replaced by the SS, ensured instant law and order. In revolutionary France, the Illuminati were faced with enormous difficulties in transforming chaos into order and were forced to take savage measures. Liberals are of course horrified by the steps that revolutionary groups take to impose their will, but they conveniently never consider the question of how they themselves would run a country if it were on the verge of total collapse. Bland, liberal, consensus politicians would be eaten alive. As Hitler rightly recognized, the will becomes fundamental in chaotic situations. Those with the strongest will are those who triumph. If the prevailing Western economic and political paradigm of liberal capitalist democracy were to collapse tomorrow and the meritocracy party stepped in, no one can be in any doubt that extreme measures would have to be taken to entrench the new system. All actions have to be decisive, and the most radical measures must be taken immediately. The revolution will be won or lost in the first 100 days. By the end of that period, the shape of the future must be apparent to all and irreversible. The days of the rich would instantly be over. All of their assets would be seized, as happened in the Russian Revolution. A brand new constitution would be declared setting out the philosophical principles of the new regime. All existing institutions inconsistent with the new constitution would be abolished. Of course, since there won't be any widespread rational agreement about what has to be done, the new government must be backed up by force. A new model army. France had a revolutionary army, Russia had the Red Army, and Hitler had the SA and SS. A new police service must be ready to step in. There must be a secret police to identify counter-revolutionaries. Liberals are appalled by such ideas and talk of a police state. These people are naive beyond belief. The world is never changed by holding enormous genteel tea parties for the liberal chattering classes. To undo thousands of years of brainwashing and to effect a decisive, irreversible change, there is simply no question that liberal measures must be taken. If you don't want to get your hands dirty, then declare yourself one of the Ignavians, stand on the sidelines. Don't get in the way. The will of the new regime must be absolute and unflinching. Robespierre and Saint-Just did not flinch. They were the French Revolution. Without them, the revolution would have collapsed. Their iron will held the whole thing together. The end of Abrahamism will not come about by negotiation and debate. It will come about because a superior will declares Abrahamism illegal and puts it out of business once and for all. In Germany, Hitler quickly made the Christian churches subordinate to his will and established Nazism as a form of pagan religion, a return to the pre-Christian age of German heroes. The German people soon adopted a new mindset based on doublethink, half Christian, half Nazi. This doublethink is often a precursor to a radical change. Moreover, the Hitler youth were raised purely within the Nazi paradigm and experienced little or no Christian brainwashing, but endless Nazi indoctrination. Many of them were more loyal to Nazism than to their own parents, and were willing to expose their parents to the authorities as subversives if they overheard them criticizing the Führer. Although this sounds repellent, the question must be raised whether it's any more moral for parents to brainwash their children. The ultimate aim is to create an environment where zero brainwashing takes place, but in order to get there, the brainwashing performed by parents must be undone. Faith and superstition must be eradicated from the human condition, replaced by reason and knowledge. Worship of torture gods and terror religions must be ended and replaced by psychologically healthy religions, devoted to maximization of human potential and the aspiration to turn humans into gods. Worship of money must be eliminated. None of this will be accomplished by half-hearted liberal talking shops. It will be enacted through irresistible force of will. Hippies, New Agers, flower power people, the Love Brigade, the tree huggers and all the rest will never change anything. Change is a function of power, of force, of will. Unpleasant acts are a sine qua non. Hitler stabilized Germany by neutralizing all dissenting voices, by silencing all the wolves who opposed him. Instantly, the chaos and street violence that had characterized the Germany of that era ceased. There was an immediate benefit for the vast majority, though not of course for the people who hated and opposed Hitler. Had Hitler actually been the Grand Master of the Illuminati, committed to implementing the enlightened meritocracy of the Illuminati, he would have created the most powerful nation in human history that would have led the rest of the world into a golden age. Instead, he presented himself as an Aryan messiah and plunged the world into a horrific war that, in the end, made superpowers of the capitalist Zionist-financed Americans and the communist Russians. In other words, Hitler gave an unprecedented victory to the two opposing poles he hated most. Way to go. Many people think they will fight when the shitstorm comes. But they won't. Only the wolves come out to play. The rest cower in their homes and wait for the outcome to be decided. The world is all about the wolves and who controls the wolf pack. The set of wolves that moves most decisively always wins. The wolf war is invariably conducted at the level of Scarface. Brutal violence. Look at all the so-called velvet revolutions that have taken place throughout the world. Could it be said that any of them actually worked? Who ultimately took over in all of these countries? The rich, the friends of Zionism. Goldman Sachs moved in to direct their economic policies. Velvet revolutions turned out to be nothing but the replacement of socialist elites by capitalist elites. These were fake revolutions that were more like corporate takeovers. Genuine revolutions generate violence because there's so much at stake. Imagine an enlightened government seeking to bring an end to circumcision and Abrahamism. The Abrahamist wolves would definitely resort to violence. After all, the Abrahamists have been history's most violent group. Religious fanaticism goes hand in hand with holy war. Yet our world cannot move on until Abrahamism is destroyed. Abrahamism is the dark, dead, evil past. There will never be a rational, enlightened new world order, while the poison of Abrahamism flows through the world's arteries.